In the headlines, President Buhari in farewell broadcast says he's leaving Nigeria better in 2023 than in 2015. Peter Obi says swearing in illegal, vows to reclaim mandate. Governor Mai Mala Buni pardons 115 inmates in Yobe State. And on the foreign scene, voting starts in Turkey's presidential election runoff. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I'm Aisha Salihu. Thanks for joining us. We begin with the first story, where 8 years after he swept to power on a wave of promises, President Muhammadu Buhari has looked back on his tenure with a sense of fulfillment and of progress for the country under his watch. On Sunday morning, in his final broadcast to the nation, the president admitted challenges to his administration and grieved for children in captivity and the loss of lives to insecurity. But his summary was clear. Celebrating another peaceful transition of power from one elected government to another, he called for accountability. The president had promised to tackle insecurity, fight corruption, and strengthen the Nigerian economy. Promises critics have accused him of failing badly on. In his broadcast, the president admitted that he started his tenure with a great deal of promise and expectation before moving to defend his performance and stating his conviction that the incoming administration will quicken the pace of this work to see a Nigeria that fulfills its destiny to be a great nation. President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu calls on Nigerians to stand together with the incoming administration to birth a better country. He spoke on the significance of democracy in driving Nigeria's sustainable development during inaugural lecture on Saturday in Abuja. Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima read Tinubu's speech at the event held at the International Conference Center. The report.
Speaking at the inauguration lecture delivered by former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta at the International Conference Center, Abuja, Tinubu highlighted the indispensable role of democracy as the cornerstone for nations' progress and prosperity, noting that the country stands at the precipice of a new era, where the ideals of democracy will guide the path towards sustainable development.
For the first time in the contemporary history of Nigeria, I dare to be contradicted by anybody. For the first time, a sitting president provided the enabling environment for the conduct of a just and fair primaries in his political party. That was how President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged as the flag bearer of the APC.
The keynote speaker, former President Kenyatta, appealed to the incoming president of Nigeria to unite the country irrespective of ethnic, political, and religious cleavages that may exist. Kenyatta says the contest is now over and the hard work of building a prosperous and unified Nigeria now begins.
The incoming administration has a unique opportunity to use this inflection point brought about by a peaceful and orderly transition to take stock of what sort of future it wants for the people of this country and for the future of this nation.
Outgoing President Buhari noted that the inauguration lecture took participants on the journey of introspection on the imperatives of democratic governance and nation building, and that the various challenges that confront the social political fabrics of Nigeria were highlighted.
We have delved deep into the theme of deepening democracy for development and explored the lessons that will guide us as we transition to a new era. Throughout this lecture, we have recognized the challenges and divisions that have tested the very fabric of our nation. We have confronted the harsh realities of inequality, the persistence of corruption, and the imperative to empower all citizens. But more importantly, we have unearthed the transformative power of democracy and the immense potential it holds for our great nation.
The national chairman of ruling All Progressive Congress, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Idris Wase, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Sultan Muhammad Abakar Saad of Sokoto, Oni of Ife, Oba Anitan Ogunwusi, Bishop Matthew Kuka, President of African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adeshina, and Deputy General of the United Nations, Amina Muhammad, among others, attended the inaugural lecture.
The Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 general elections, Peter Obi, has described the scheduled Monday swearing-in of President-elect Bola Tinubu and his vice, Kashim Shettima, as illegal. He has also expressed optimism that, with the present Nigerian judiciary, reclaiming his mandate is certain. Peter Obi stated this while speaking at a function with journalists in Kaduna State.
Well, the court will decide. Like I said, we must continue to live on path of peace, religious harmony, ethnic harmony, coexistence. That is the most important thing for now. We have teeming youth population that is today facing unemployment, hunger, and everything, especially in the north and all over Nigeria, which we can tackle by ensuring that we invest in them, by ensuring cultivation of the assets of the country, especially the vast uncultivated land in the north.
Still with the Labour Party, the Lamida Papa faction of the party has kicked against the decision of an Edo State High Court presided over by Justice Emmanuel Okey Ihamoje, which reportedly restored Julius Abure as substantive national chairman of the party. During a press conference in Abuja, the National Publicity Secretary of the Apapa faction, Abayomi Arobambi, said a matter pending before the Court of Appeal cannot be litigated by any lower court. Arobambi said the implication of the suspension of Abure by the National Executive Council of the party in Bauchi makes the Edo judgment a mere academic exercise, as NEC, which is the highest organ of the party, had already suspended Abure and his cohorts. Counsel to Apapa faction, Monday Mawa, while also reacting to the judgment, said the judgment does not set aside pending issues facing Abure, which are yet to be resolved.
I felt it is necessary to set this record straight that Abure himself was the one that appealed that judgment of the ruling of May 12, where the court sustained the order restraining him and restraining the former National Secretary, restraining the former National Secretary, that's Clement Ojukwu, and restraining the former National Treasurer. And they have appealed the judgment into the Court of Appeal, which is yet to be heard. He also filed motion for sale proceeding. He went about last week that Court of Appeal are reinstated him. If Court of Appeal are reinstated him, what is the jubilation about an Edo State High Court that has also now said they are returning Abure to office? It just mark some form of responsibility on the part of Abure and his media cohort. But we are letting the public know that that matter is pending before Court of Appeal in Abuja, and no junior court can adjudicate over any matter before a higher court.
NEC, which is the highest organ of the party, has further suspended him. So his suspension from his word, which was set aside today, is no longer of any moment, because he now has, it's not like a person having two issues to cross, or two rivers to cross. He has only succeeded in crossing one, and he's celebrating that he has succeeded in crossing everything. Unfortunately, that is where he is, and that is the reason I say I do not see reason why anybody should be celebrating what transpired in Benin today. There is nothing to celebrate. So I think that is the position. So as it stands today, that judgment has only set aside the suspension by his word. not the restraining order of FCT High Court. That restraining order still remains, and then the suspension of their suspension by neck still remains. So you can see that the judgment seemed not to even make any difference for him. So he still remains suspended and remains restrained.
Gombe State Governor Inuwa Yahya and Chairman Northern Governors Forum has dissolved his cabinet ahead of his swearing-in for second term. Governor Yahya announced the dissolution of the State Executive Council at the valedictory session of the State Council meeting. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
His Excellency, the Chairman of the Council.
This is the valedictory session of the Gombe State Executive Council, signaling the end of the first tenure of the Inuwa Yahya APC-led administration that began from 29 May 2019. Governor Yahya, who announced the dissolution of the cabinet, thanked the commissioners for their contributions in the last 4 years.
With what we did, I hereby announce that this cabinet dissolves as from today. This is the last working day. But as Mr. President said, you are still in government, you manage until we transit finally on the 29th. So don't be surprised. I work here Saturdays and Sundays. If I send for you, please, hurry up and come. There could be one or two things for you to explain or answer or advise on what we do.
The Attorney General of the state and Commissioner for Justice pointed that the APC-led government had inherited multiple problems when it came to power in 2019, but ensured it worked hard to surmount them.
Your Excellency, you have faced these daunting challenges squarely, and they've been addressed successfully. And for that, the people of Gombe are grateful. And for those of us who are in the train that has moved this Gombe forward, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to put our footprints in the history of Gombe. Your work that you have done outlived those who have done for 16 years, and you will continue to be remembered for that. I don't need to mention them. But particularly, I cannot fail to mention the Muhammadu Buhari Industrial Park. The cumulative effect of that will be seen in the future. And whether you are alive or not, people will continue to say it was His Excellency Muhammadu Inuwa Yahya that constructed this. Thank you for that.
The governor has inaugurated a transition committee in preparation for his swearing-in for the second term, come 29 May 2023. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
As Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State and Deputy Governor Obafemi Hamzat gear up for their inauguration on Monday, the state government says both have submitted their asset declaration forms to the Code of Conduct Bureau. The media advisor to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Boyega Akoshile, made the disclosure in a statement. The asset declaration was said to have been administered to the governor and his deputy by a Code of Conduct Bureau board member representing Southwest Zone, Professor SF Ogundari, and witnessed by member Taufik Olawole Abdusalam and the Lagos State Director of the Bureau, O. Popola. As part of activities lined up for his inauguration on Monday, Governor Mai Mala Buni of Yobe State has granted pardons to 115 inmates serving different jail terms in the state. Addressing the inmates in Potiskum, former Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice in the state, Saleh Samanja, disclosed that their fines ranging from 10,000 naira to 500,000 naira had been settled by the Yobe State government. Samanja charged them to ensure they went back to school or learnt trades, saying their characters were found satisfactory while serving. The inmates incarcerated across 3 correctional centers in Potiskum, Nguru, and Gashua included 2 females and 113 males between the ages of 20 and 40 years old. The Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 14, Ahmad Abdulrahman, has charged personnel in the zone to guard against corruption at a time when the force is working towards tackling criminality in the country. AIG Ahmad Abdulrahman gave the charge during a visit to the Kaduna State Police Command. Here's the report.
Interacting with the officers and men of the Kaduna State Police Command, AIG Abdurrahman said the police has beamed its searchlight on flashpoint areas in order to bring an end to criminal activities.
Always I will receive flash report from Chikun local government, flash report from Zangon Kataf area, flash report from Birnungwari area, flash reports along Sarkin Power Polware. And these are not new areas in terms of our, mapping out as hotspots.
He also advised men and women of the command to do more in area of intelligence gathering when discharging their responsibilities and also shun corruption.
So we have to collaborate much more, and especially in intelligence gathering. You cannot succeed without intelligence. And intelligence, right from the traditional primitive level of policing in the world, intelligence was what had triggered successful securing of the communities.
He further urged them to ensure they don't abuse the social media when discharging their responsibilities. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
You're watching News Update on Trust TV, coming up shortly after the break. We'll take a look at agricultural entrepreneurship support to unemployed graduates. Do stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Inherited a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is News Update on Trust TV. Here is a recap of some of our top stories. President Buhari in farewell broadcast says he's leaving Nigeria better in 2023 than in 2015. And Peter Obi says swearing in illegal, vows to reclaim mandate. Moving on to more stories, most traditional libraries have received little or no attention in recent times, as majority of students and researchers now rely on internet for books and other forms of information. But despite the rise in internet-based sources, physical libraries still remain relevant, as some of the information on the internet might not be absolutely accurate, correct, or reliable, while others are completely unavailable. Hamido Yegbade reports that this is why students are calling for an overhaul of physical libraries. Take a look.
Until recently, students and researchers dedicated substantial part of their time to visit libraries, to consult, read, and even borrow books. But with the advent of technology, most people now depend on the internet to get the needed information in their fields of study. This has caused public libraries to suffer neglect, and many of them near moribund, especially owing to paucity of funds.
Most of the libraries that I've gone to, they don't usually have books that are up to par or up to date. Most of the time, their latest editions are usually 2009, 2010.
The technological aid come with innovations, such as online resources, online libraries, that is practically taking over the traditional wall of library.
Because students, basically, they use the internet more often. So if the materials that are needed, that are in the traditional library, are also provided to the internet library, then it can be more easier for students and every researcher to make their research online with the internet rather than going to the traditional library.
Notwithstanding the online books, the traditional libraries are still very relevant, as some of the information on the internet might not be absolutely accurate, correct, and reliable.
In most cases, there are some materials in library that are of essential use. So this link between traditional library and electronic library is still very there, because there is still a nexus or a sort of interrelationship. For example, there is a case, we have something like a interlibrary loan. Then we have a case of a selective dissemination of information. Yes, information could be sourced online, and it is the librarians in the physical library who will work on that information query. Without the traditional library, even the electronic library will not be a reality.
The students charge government to totally overhaul public libraries to meet the modern-day demands of library users. Amit Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
On the foreign scene, Turkish voters have headed to the polls for a landmark presidential runoff that will decide who leads the divided country through a critical period at home and on the international stage. The nation is reeling from years-long economic crisis in which the cost of living has skyrocketed for almost every household. And the country is still in mourning after twin earthquakes in February that killed more than 50,000 people in Turkey and neighboring Syria. Sunday's runoff election is the first in Turkey's modern history and pits incumbent President Recep Tayyip Erdogan against opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu after neither secured a majority in the first round, winning 49% and 45% of the votes respectively. On the heels of a poorer than expected showing by Kılıçdaroğlu's alliance on May 14, most polls now predict a comfortable victory for Erdogan, who has led Turkey for 2 decades as Prime Minister, then President. Polls opened at 8 a.m. local time on Sunday. Moving on to sports stories, Derek White scored a dramatic buzzer beater as the Boston Celtics continued their remarkable fight back from 3-0 down to level the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Miami Heat. With the Celtics trailing 103-102, Marcus Smart's last gap 3-point attempt bounced off the rim, but White tipped it in moments before the buzzer. No NBA team has come from 3-0 down to win a best-of-7 playoff series. The decisive final game takes place on Tuesday in Boston. The winners will face the Denver Nuggets in the finals, which starts on Friday. Chris Billam-Smith became the new WBO cruiserweight champion as the dethroned former gymmate Lawrence Okolie on a memorable night in Bournemouth. Fighting in his hometown in front of 15,000 jubilant fans, underdog Billam-Smith floored Okolie 3 times en route to a majority points victory. A frustrated Okolie was twice docked points for holding and grappling as he lost his unbeaten record. The judges' scorecards read 112-112, 116-107, and 115-108. Okolie, who was part of trainer Shane McGowan's gym before the pair split earlier this year, suffered a first career defeat in his 20th professional outing. With that, we've come to the end of Trust TV News Update at this hour. Don't forget to follow us across all of our social media platforms and YouTube live stream. I'm Aisha Salihu. Thank you for watching.